I'm here with an McCombs steel model, and you can see that there's a lot of joist and joist girders, and then we have a lot of HSS columns here where we're going to get standard cap plates for their joist girders to sit on, and then the joists are then going to frame to those joist girders. So what I need to do is I'm going to need to apply all these connections here to all these columns. Now I've got 80 HSS columns selected. There is a quarter on 12 roofs slope all over, and so just trying to copy connections from one bay to the other and one column to the other doesn't always work, and sometimes you'll have to manually apply each of those connections on the columns, which if you've ever seen 162 and 164, so if we come in here 162, there's actually quite a few different kind of picking of the primary and secondaries, and then on 164 you have to kind of pick these, and you have to pick them in a very specific order. Now the out-of-the-box Tekla auto connection doesn't do a really good job of identifying these complex joist kind of connections for multiple members, because identifying the right primaries and secondaries in the right order can get a little bit tricky. And so essentially here what I wanted to do is reduce a lot of the manual input and clicking and get this done really fast, because it's really the same settings used all over, but it's other than maybe changing the cap plate size a little bit as well, but it's pretty much just getting rid of the tedious action of applying the connections. Now if we go back in here, we've created a tool that is called the Joist Applicator, the McCombs Joist Applicator, and it's just something I've put together. So this is a power tool. I've used some of my logic that I've created here to do auto connection and identify framing conditions to the columns. I've selected my columns here, and then basically all I'm going to do is I'm going to say apply the connections. So the standard settings here are basically the saved away settings for connection 162 and 164, and you see at the lower left hand corner, in about 15 seconds it's already processed all 80 of these columns, and if I just zoom in, you'll see that the connections have all been applied. Now if I come in here and I use the autofill data checkbox here, what that means is, and let's turn our selection filter off so we can just get to everything. If I go specifically to 162, what that autofill is doing is it's looking at the column size and the orientation and looking at which direction or which faces the column the joist girders are attaching to, and it's automatically sizing the plate. And if there was a single joist girder connection, it would actually do this offset for us if we needed that. So basically it's following our standard of going 1 inch total beyond the width of the column, giving us the inch and a half edge distance here, and sizing the plate, as well as on the bolts tab filling in this dimension here that we want from the center line of the column to the line of the bolts to match the standards that we coordinate with the joist manufacturer. So again, instead of the detailer calculating this information and doing any of this manually, here within literally seconds I just saved a whole bunch of clicking and a whole bunch of manual input time, and I just made all of my connection application much more accurate and reduced the potential of manual data input error.